Night over the Pacific feels endless. A black ocean, a moonlit sky, and cutting through it, two impossible shapes racing toward each other. One is the Northrop P-61 Black Widow, America's first purpose-built night fighter, its radar operators calling it the ghost that hunts in the dark. The other, a lone Japanese intruder aircraft slipping through the night at wave-top height, hunting the very bombers that have been burning Japan's industrial heart. For months, the Imperial Japanese Army had mocked the idea that a heavy, twin-engine American aircraft, slower than their fighters, bulkier than their bombers, could ever challenge their night raiders. But tonight, that belief is about to die. At 02:14 hours, the radar aboard the Black Widow suddenly spikes. A contact, closing, fast. The pilot rolls the P-61 into the darkness, engines roaring, black wings blending into the void. No one sees it coming. No one ever does. In the next 60 seconds, the Pacific night will witness something the Japanese High Command insisted was impossible. A radar-guided interception so precise, so ruthless, that it will rewrite the rules of night warfare. A showdown in total darkness, one that will prove why the Black Widow became the most feared nocturnal hunter of the Second World War. The Pacific War had entered its final punishing phase. By mid-1944, American B-29 superfortress raids were tearing deep into the Japanese home islands. But there was a problem, one the USAAF hadn't anticipated. Japan had begun launching night intruder missions, fast, low-flying aircraft that attacked American bases under cover of total darkness. These weren't random raids. They were calculated, coordinated, and designed to cripple the B-29s before they could even take off. The Americans needed a countermeasure. They needed a hunter that could fight where the enemy believed he was untouchable, the night sky. Conventional fighters couldn't do it. They were fast, agile, and deadly, but blind at night. Even with spotters, even with searchlights, even with ground radar, interception rates were low and casualties were rising. Something different was required. Something built not for speed alone or maneuverability alone, but for technological dominance. Army Air Corps had quietly commissioned a bold new experiment from a small California company, Northrop. The mission was radical: design an aircraft that could see in the dark. Not guess, not search, see. Northrop engineers responded with a monstrous, almost alien design. A twin-engine, twin-boom night predator equipped with a revolutionary onboard radar system. A machine built not to dodge dogfights, but to control them, detecting an enemy long before the enemy even knew it had been found. This new weapon would become the P-61 Black Widow. U.S. command doubted it. Too big, too slow, too strange. The pilots who flew it knew one thing: if the Black Widow ever found you at night, you were already dead. But on the other side of the Pacific, Japan believed it still held the advantage after dark. The Imperial Japanese Army Air Service had long depended on small, agile aircraft operating from dispersed island bases, fighters and light bombers capable of slipping beneath American radar coverage. These intruder units operated with a simple doctrine: strike at night, hit the runways, hit the fuel dumps, hit the B-29s before dawn, then vanish. Their aircraft, most commonly the Nakajima Ki-49, Ki-67, or modified light bombers used as night harassment platforms, were not meant to survive a dogfight. They were meant to avoid one entirely. Flying at low altitude, under the radar horizon, they navigated by coastline silhouettes and moonlit wave patterns, often arriving undetected until their bombs were already falling. Japanese pilots trusted this system. They trusted darkness. And their commanders trusted something else even more: the belief that America had no effective night interceptor. Reports from frontline bases reinforced this arrogance. U.S. fighters struggled to locate intruders in the dark. Ground radar could detect something, but vectoring a pilot onto a fast-moving target proved unreliable. Even when contact was made, the intruders simply dove into the Black Sea and escaped. It seemed like an unbeatable tactic. Until mid-1944, when a handful of mysterious American aircraft started appearing. Large black silhouettes with glowing radar scopes, heavy cannons in their noses, and crews that spoke calmly over the radio even while flying blind. At first, the Japanese high command dismissed these reports as nerves. But soon, aircraft began disappearing without a trace. No radio call, no visual sighting, no survivors. Only one explanation made sense. The Americans had created a night hunter. And soon, the Black Widow would prove just how deadly that hunter could be. The P-61 Black Widow was unlike anything Japan, or even the Allies, had ever seen. Its 66-foot wingspan and twin Pratt & Whitney R2800 engines gave it stability, power, and endurance, but the true innovation was the SCR-720 radar nestled in its nose. Capable of detecting aircraft up to 5 miles away in total darkness, it transformed the night sky from a blind hunting ground into a controlled battlefield. 4 20mm cannons mounted in the belly delivered explosive firepower that could turn a Mitsubishi G4M Betty into a fireball with a single perfectly placed burst. In short, the P-61 combined speed, firepower, and perception in a way no conventional night fighter could. Major Carroll C. Smith, 26 years old, 43 combat missions behind him, and 4 confirmed kills, carried the weight of an entire invasion on his shoulders. Every night, he flew patrols over Mutro, knowing that one missed bomber meant dead engineers, destroyed airfields, and potentially thousands of American casualties. Behind him, Lieutenant Philip Porter monitored the radar, vectored Smith toward targets, and kept him alive. Night fighting was a duet of precision, trust, and nerves. One misstep could be fatal. The Japanese bombers were confident in their doctrine. Flying in darkness, they believed invisibility was guaranteed. Their aircraft lacked self-sealing fuel tanks. Their crews were trained for efficiency, not evasion, and night fighters were assumed ineffective. This overconfidence was deadly. In a sky full of unknowns, they underestimated the reach and lethality of the Black Widow. Even experienced crews like those piloting the Betty and Helen bombers were blind to the threat closing in from above. Intercepting multiple bombers in a single night demanded more than courage. It required mathematical precision. Smith and Porter faced 12 incoming bombers, each separated by miles, with fuel barely sufficient for 3 hours. Choosing which target to engage first was a life-or-death calculation. Pursue the closer, low-flying bomber and risk missing the higher target, or chase the higher one and allow the low aircraft to approach Muro. Every maneuver consumed fuel. Every second delayed interception. Night fighting was not a game of reflexes. It was a brutal, calculated chess match played against time and darkness. The 418th Night Fighter Squadron had arrived at Mutro only 3 days earlier, tasked with defending newly constructed airfields critical for the Lingang Gulf invasion. Smith's leadership extended beyond flying. His decisions determined whether 20,000 troops would sleep safely or die under bombs. His calm under pressure, honed through rigorous night fighter training in Orlando, Florida, allowed him to make split-second choices, trusting Porter, trusting the radar, trusting his aircraft, trusting himself. One error, and the lives of thousands depended on correcting it instantly. Every intercept was a moral decision as well as a tactical one. Every bomber destroyed represented human lives on the other side. Yet letting them reach the airfields meant guaranteed American casualties. In total darkness, with radar as their only eyes, Smith and Porter had to reconcile the necessity of killing with the responsibility of protecting their own forces. War reduced choices to numbers, timing, and angles. But the human element, the weight of decision under fire, remained ever present. December 29, 1944, 23:40 hours. Major Carroll C. Smith crouched in the cockpit of his P-61 Black Widow at Muro. Engines humming, radar glowing faintly in the dark. 12 Japanese bombers were heading toward the airfields below. Each one represented potential destruction, casualties, and delay to the Lingayen Gulf invasion. Smith's mind raced through calculations: fuel, time, intercept angles. One mistake could doom the engineers, the troops, and the mission. 4 out of 12, the nearest targets. Smith knew he had to choose wisely. The P-61's twin R-2800 engines roared as he climbed, piercing the night clouds. The first target, a Mitsubishi G4M Betty at 8,000 feet, appeared on Porter's radar. Visibility was nil. No moon, heavy clouds, darkness complete. Conventional fighters would have searched in vain, but Smith had radar, skill, and the element of surprise. At 2 miles out, the Betty was still invisible to the human eye. At 500 yards, its faint engine glow became perceptible. Smith positioned the Black Widow below and behind, integrating the N6 gun sight into his instruments. At 350 yards, the 420mm cannons unleashed a brief, precise burst. Explosions tore through the bomber's fuel tanks, flames erupted. The Betty rolled, spiraled, and vanished into the Pacific 8 miles north of Muro. 1 down, 11 to go. Fuel was already 15% depleted. The stakes escalated instantly. 3 more contacts remained, miles apart, each approaching the vulnerable airfields. Smith pushed the throttles forward. Porter vectored the next target. At 0014 hours, the second Betty emerged, 6,000 feet altitude, heading directly toward Muro. The mathematics were brutal: intercept fast or risk allowing bombs to fall. The Black Widow accelerated, 320 miles an hour, engines screaming under full power. Every mile closed meant potential lives saved or lost. Radar guided, Smith closed to 1,000 yards. One perfect burst, and another bomber was destroyed. Explosions lit the clouds below, illuminating the night with deadly brilliance. Fuel now at 42%, 2 contacts left, each moving toward destruction. Time, speed, precision, and judgment balanced on a knife's edge. One wrong choice, and American casualties would mount. The airfields, painstakingly built over 2 weeks, could be obliterated before January's Lingayen Gulf invasion. 0023 hours. Smith had chosen his third target, a Nakajima Ki-49 Helen, higher at 9,000 feet, maneuvering aggressively. This bomber was faster, with better defensive armament. Approaching directly from behind would expose Smith to tailgun fire. Instead, he came from below and slightly to the left, exploiting the bomber's blind spot. Porter's calm, precise directions guided every turn. Left 5 degrees, down 3. At 500 yards, the Helen's tail gunner opened fire, tracers streaming past the cockpit. The element of surprise was gone. Smith had seconds. He squeezed the trigger, unleashing a 3-second burst. 72 rounds of 20mm shells tore through fuselage and wing. Right engine exploded, then left. The bomber rolled inverted and plummeted into the ocean, flames tracing a path through the night. 3 down, 9 remaining. Fuel now at 28%, dangerously low. The fourth target, a low-flying Betty, was only 12 miles from Muro. Searchlights from the airfield swept the sky. Anti-aircraft guns were primed. Smith descended, altitude advantage above 4,000 feet, carefully timing his intercept. Radar and instinct guided him as he approached. At 350 yards, he fired a 2-second burst. The bomber erupted in flames. Port wings sheared off. It plunged into the sea. 4 bombers destroyed in 55 minutes. But Smith's night was not over. 0045 hours. A final contact, fast, single-engine Nakajima Ki-84 Frank, heading north. A fighter, agile, lethal. In daylight, it could outpace a P-61. At night, blind without radar, it was vulnerable. Smith dove from above, accelerating to 390 miles an hour. At 300 yards, he fired a 3-second burst. The Frank's engine ignited, tail broke apart. The pilot ejected, parachuting into darkness. Smith's 5th kill. Fuel at 15%. McGuire Field lay 11 miles south. Landing would be in near complete darkness. 12 dim lamps had gone out, leaving the runway invisible. Smith relied on instruments, compass, radar altimeter, and sheer calculation. Descending at 400 feet per minute, airspeed 120 knots, just above stall speed, he touched down on crushed coral at 0059 hours. The P-61 slowed to a taxi, engines cutting. In just 63 minutes, Smith and Porter had intercepted 5 Japanese aircraft, destroyed 4 bombers and 1 fighter, protected the airfields, and ensured the invasion schedule remained intact. Their night was a blend of human courage, technological supremacy, and meticulous strategy. A perfect storm executed in total darkness. Dawn broke over Muro on December 30, 1944, revealing the aftermath of a night that would become legend in the annals of night fighting. The air was calm, but the sea held the remnants of destruction. 4 Japanese bombers and 1 fighter lay wrecked miles offshore, exactly where Smith had reported. Ground radar, coast watchers, and intelligence officers confirmed each kill. No American lives had been lost, no airfields damaged. The engineers who had labored through the night to complete the airstrips remained unharmed, their work uninterrupted. The Lingayen Gulf invasion schedule remained intact. The airfield Smith had protected would later host P-51 Mustangs and P-47 Thunderbolts, providing crucial cover for troops landing on January 9, 1945. Delays of even 2 weeks could have cost thousands of lives and jeopardized the entire operation. For Smith and Porter, the mission highlighted the effectiveness of precision night interception. The P-61 Black Widow's radar, combined with crew skill, had proven decisive. Smith's 5 kills in 63 minutes equaled the highest single-night total for any American night fighter in the Pacific Theater up to that point. Porter's role as radar operator was equally vital. His ability to track multiple targets, predict maneuvers, and vector Smith accurately had turned impossible odds into victory. The squadron, the 418th Night Fighter Squadron, had arrived at Muro only 3 days earlier, and yet this mission alone demonstrated their critical impact. Their presence had transformed Muro from a vulnerable target into a defended bastion, capable of repelling multiple coordinated enemy attacks in total darkness. By the end of December 30, 1944, the full scope of Smith's achievement was clear. His 7 confirmed kills over less than 24 hours made him the top-scoring American night fighter ace of World War II. 4 bombers and 1 fighter destroyed during the night of December 29-30, and 2 more kills later that day marked a record unmatched in the Pacific Theater. The 418th Night Fighter Squadron's total score of 18 kills in the Pacific now included 39% credited to Smith alone. The Japanese attacks on Muro ceased temporarily after that night. Whether the remaining bombers turned back out of fear or confusion is unclear, but the result was undeniable. American lives were saved, construction of airfields continued without interruption, and the Lingayen Gulf invasion proceeded on schedule. Historians note that had the Japanese bombers succeeded, airfield completion could have been delayed by 2 weeks, a delay with the potential to increase casualties dramatically. Smith's skill, Porter's precision, and the P-61 Black Widow's advanced radar capabilities demonstrated the strategic value of night fighters. The aircraft, built specifically for nocturnal combat, had lived up to its promise, detecting, tracking, and destroying targets that conventional fighters could not even see. Every burst of gunfire, every maneuver, and every decision under the crushing pressure of darkness reinforced the lethal effectiveness of radar-guided interception. Yet, despite the extraordinary feat, Smith remained largely unknown outside military circles. He returned to civilian life after the war, avoiding publicity, never writing memoirs. The P-61 he flew, the very aircraft that hunted 4 bombers in 80 minutes, was lost to history. Only a handful of Black Widows survive today, none bearing the record of that night. The mission at Moreau became a testament to teamwork, technology, and the human will to prevail against overwhelming odds. Major Carroll C. Smith's night over Moreau was more than a mission. It was a demonstration of precision, courage, and technological innovation converging at a single moment in history. In total darkness, against overwhelming odds, 1 P-61 Black Widow and 2 men, pilot and radar operator, altered the course of an invasion, saving lives and preserving the momentum of the war effort. The engagement showcased the evolution of aerial warfare. Radar, a tool invisible to the enemy, had shifted the balance of power. It transformed night from a shield for attackers into a deadly trap. Yet technology alone was not enough. Smith's decisions, split-second calculations, and unflinching nerve made the difference between success and disaster. Porter's skill, guiding the pilot through unseen skies, turned theory into lethal reality. In retrospect, that single night embodies the quiet heroism of countless unsung figures in World War II. No parades, no memoirs, no monuments, only records in military archives. But their impact was tangible: lives saved, missions accomplished, invasions made possible. The P-61 Black Widow, designed to hunt in the shadows, became an instrument of survival and triumph. History often remembers the battles and leaders, but it is in these precise, harrowing, and calculated moments, when one man's courage meets cutting-edge technology, that the fate of thousands can hinge. December 29–30, 1944, over Muro, the night sky bore witness to such a moment. Smith and Porter proved that even in the blackest darkness, skill, strategy, and resolve could light the way.